Okay, good morning, everybody, with a market update after the Fed announcement yesterday. As the market was expecting, the Fed cut the rates by 50 basis points. So that was kind of priced in already. Like we said, I got tons of phone calls about, hey, they lowered the rates. What are they at now? And like I previously noted, like it was already priced in. So if you saw the pricing yesterday, and again this morning as it opened up, the mortgage rates actually went higher because everybody was expecting this, and something he said in his speech didn't go over well, and the Treasury yields are actually kicking up. So we had better rates 2 days ago than we do today after they cut the rates. So that's one of the things I try to tell, all my borrowers were locked in prior to the announcement. We follow this stuff all the time. So I share this. So anyone who was working with me was about 3 weeks ahead of everything that went on because most people only find out when the rates are cut when it hits the news. By the time it hits the news, it's already over with. So being ahead of the curve allowed us to lock our loans, allowed me to go golf and not have to worry and stress about what's going to happen in the market. So then as I was walking last night, I'm thinking about, okay, it's great. We got a 50 basis point rate cut. This should be good. It's more of a significant thing. It's like, okay, we're done with inflation. They wouldn't make a cut that big if they were still worried about it. But then as I'm walking, I'm thinking, the Fed sees what goes on, right? Like he's forward facing in a sense of, if they're making a 50 basis point cut, there's something there that we're not seeing, right? Because if they're cutting that much ahead, that means something in the data says, okay, I think we turned, right? And we know everything is lagging. So this is going to take time to actually play out to the market. So if they're already making a cut like this, there's some sort of data that they see coming that we're not aware about. And these moves take time. I mean, from cutting rates to the economy getting better and people opening up credit, it's not going to happen overnight. It took months to get us here, as they raised the rates up, 9 interest rate hikes. And it's going to take time to settle back down. So it kept bothering me that if you look at this chart here, this is the 10-year Treasury. You can see this is where we were the other day when I locked everybody, and this is where we're already bouncing back up. I don't think we're going to go super high, but there was no point leaving money on the table when we've already had such a good run. But the confusing part is this, and the market's not open yet, but you're actually going to see this, like the stock market's actually opening up even higher. So the stock market is happy when we get reports that the economy is slowing down because that means we're through inflation. So it's been this weird reverse of when it looks like we get a bad economic report, the stock market goes up. At some point, there's a disconnect there. At some point, that's got to reverse to bad news is bad news. Bad news is no longer good news. And that's what I'm starting to think is going to be happening soon, because if the Fed made this rate cut and we're forward looking, there's some sort of weakness that he's seeing. Anyone who lives in this country can see the difference. Like, things are expensive. People are starting to cut back. I mean, I've seen it overall, seen it in my own life, seen it with everybody. And then brings me to my next 2 points. Credit card debt is the highest it's ever been. So if we go back and look at a historical chart of credit card debt, you can see right before 08, 09, this is where we were. That wasn't even close to where we are today. But this is what happened. All credit card debt was up. And if you look at the personal savings rate too, it was way down here. I mean, it wasn't the low of 2005, but it was low. And so people had no savings and tons of credit card debt. So combine that with what happened, you had the real estate crash. And that was based off of bad lending, right? They were giving people loans who couldn't afford it. That's not the situation we're in today. That's definitely not the case. Lending is still as tight as it was. There's some different programs, but for the most part, they're rooted in some sort of underwriting. So that leads us to here. Now, we were tracking towards, if you look at the credit card debt, we were tracking this way towards COVID. And then COVID happened, and our credit card debt all dropped off, because if you look at the personal savings rate, same deal. Right before savings went up, and then after the recession was up. So our personal savings rate, just because of COVID and all the stimulus, spiked up here. So I think we were actually headed for this type of market in 2019, 2020. And then because COVID happened and it was so extreme, they did these countermeasures to kind of offset. So I think we were on our way towards recession in 2019, 2020. And then because of COVID, it made it like it made it like a big, quick recession. And then they stimulated the economy, which is what then caused all this inflation. So now, though, you have credit card at a new high. I mean, higher than it's ever been. Personal savings rate low. The stock market up, but everyone feeling the squeeze of what's going on. So that's what takes me. For the last couple of years, we've heard soft landing, recession coming, and now it's like, oh, look, we beat it, no recession. I think now is actually when the recession is going to be coming, which is not positive news after they finally cut interest rates, but you start to look at it, the way it's been done is that, like, hey, whenever all of us as a group think something's going to happen, it doesn't happen. We don't get the recessions when we think we don't get the stock market booms when we think too, because if we did, we don't buy real estate before the prices go through the roof, because if we all knew that, then it wouldn't happen. So I think that's what happened with this recession. I think we got pushed off a little bit because of the shortened COVID recession that we were headed towards anyway, exacerbated by COVID. Government stepped in bigger than they would have if it was a regular recession. And this is where we ended up. Now, I mean, you can look at the personal savings rate, just dipped off to almost nothing. So I think the benefit of what we're going to see now is it's going to be a little bit of a staggered recession, right? When COVID happened, real estate kept everybody alive between the refinances and things like that, people pulling money out of their houses, lowering their rate, feeling a little bit more free with the lower payments. That kept spending alive, while service businesses, restaurants, travel took their hit. So we kind of had that flip. And then going forward, rates started going up. People, like, housing started to take its hit in the sense of volume. There wasn't a lot of transactions, no refinances for 2 years. I just started doing them again. And then the travel and the lifestyle went up, but so did inflation. So now we're at a point where everything's costing so much, and people are going to start backing off from that. So there's going to be a little bit of another flip-flop towards that, where because rates will start to settle, it's going to open up a certain group of people, and it's mostly the people who bought between 2019 and before they started raising the interest rates, and even a little bit after the interest rates, because they have equity in their house. So if they have equity in their house, they have options to, if they lose a job, if they have a lot of credit card debt, they can consolidate. For the people that don't have that, they're stuck with high credit card debt, and there's no outlet. If they skipped payments and they started missing, your credit is your currency right now, because having credit gives you access to pull home equity and things like that. Without that, you're kind of going to get stuck. Now, I don't know what the trigger will be. I don't think it will be a housing trigger for recession. I'm leaning towards a credit card debt type of thing, and it might affect people disproportionately, because some people may be able to just roll into their home equity and be done and move on. But the overall feeling of prices being too high, being taken advantage of for too long, and wanting to cut back, that is overall. And I think that's what will slow down the market, but will be offset by a lot of refinance transactions. Plus, it'll also be some, purchases will still be going. If purchases were going at 8%, 9%, we'll be going here too. So I don't know exactly the triggers of it, but just one walk, because my kids forgot their batteries at the park for their motorized toys, and this all kind of fell together. So I think this is something to watch. This is something to keep an eye on. This is my first. Everyone knows I post things out first in 2020. I was talking about how inflation was coming. I talked about the stock market in 21, 22. This is where we're going. I think we're going to be in this split type of recession, and it's how you handle things now is going to set your future up. So, stay away from the late payments. Keep that credit up. If you have that, you have options. Without credit, you get trapped in credit card debt and you can't breathe. It's going to take one little trigger to the economy to start having a real problem. Job losses, things like that. We haven't even seen it. Like we've been cheering on unemployment going up so that would mean the Fed would cut rates. It's just so backwards. So a lot in the works. Still good news. They're cutting. Without housing, if you combine that and we also had high rates, we'd be in a lot more trouble. But the housing will offset. I think it's just going to be industry specific. So I will keep everybody posted. Hope you like the update. And we added some new features to the website. You can actually sign up so you can get notified. Videos are going to be on YouTube. A lot of changes coming up to just share the content, because I've been getting some good feedback. So any questions, you always reach out.